Hi, I'm Allie Hamilton, and I'm so happy to welcome you to the Come As You Are podcast. Every week, we'll be talking about some aspect of healing, usually around childhood wounds and complicated familial relationships. The topics will always coincide with my personal essay of the week, and this will be a place where we can take a deep dive together. I'm so thrilled you've joined me and delighted for you to always come as you are. Hi there. Hi there. Welcome to our talk. Today, the topic is you do not owe your husband sex and other things I shouldn't have to say. In case you missed it, the reason that is the title of the essay that I was writing this week is because of the public discourse. There's just so much going on right now. And I started the essay because there are so many things I would rather be writing about and talking about than some of the things I feel I really have to be writing about and talking about. And one of the things I would love to be writing about, for example, are sunflowers. It's my favorite flower. I was sharing, in case you don't know, they can grow to be over 6 feet tall. And when they are mature, the heads of the sunflowers, they follow the sun across the sky. And then at night, they turn their heads back to the east so they can watch the sunrise. It's like they know the sun is going to be rising in the east again. It's incredible. There are so many things like that I would rather be writing about. The space-time continuum, this idea that space and time, that it's four-dimensional. And I feel, if you've ever, and I'm sure you have, had the experience where you're walking down the street and maybe somebody walks by and they're wearing a certain perfume or a scent of like a particular baked good comes wafting out of a store and you're just taken somewhere instantly. That to me feels like time travel and like the space-time continuum at work, where you're just hurtling through space and time to some other moment, some other situation, a person somewhere else in your particular timeline, and I've come to feel at this point in my life that time is really not linear. I think I used to feel that way, that, we're born and we're kind of like going along this line and then death is at the end. And now I feel more like time folds in on itself and that maybe these moments are still happening somewhere, because I really have had that experience of feeling like I'm back somewhere. And I was writing about last weekend, my son and my ex-husband were playing music together. My son is a classical guitarist. He's been playing since he's 5 years old, and my ex-husband is he's been playing classical violin since he was 2, and he's an electric violinist musician. So they were playing music together, and I took my daughter. We went to go to the show. And I was sitting there in the dark watching my son, who's now 18, and his dad. And this is not something I think about often, but, it's just thinking about the first time I saw my ex-husband play music, which was like over 20 years ago, and how it feels like 3 lifetimes have happened since then. And, really thinking about myself from over 20 years ago and the way that I thought life was going to unfold at that time. And I just was such a romantic, and I had my heart on my sleeve, and, my heart breaks when I think about myself sometimes, like my younger self and the things that I thought. But what I was thinking as I was sitting there in the dark is like the two most amazing people have come out of that experience, whatever else happened. These two incredible human beings came out of the experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, And I was writing about how I would rather be talking to you about the way I counted my baby's, 10 fingers and toes when they were born, and how astounded I was by how tiny their fingernails were, and just the miracle of growing a person, like all of it. And leaf sheep. I don't know if you know about leaf sheep, I have this experience pretty often where I'm going through the world and I'll see something or something will happen and I'm amazed. And leaf sheep that's a thing. They are sea slugs. And I really encourage you, you can go look in the essay. I linked, there's a picture and there's a link. If you click on the picture, you can go and see a lot of them. But they're these amazing creatures, these slugs, and they eat algae, and they actually, even though they're an animal, they perform photosynthesis. There's a symbiotic relationship that happens because of something called kleptoplasty. They're eating the plastids, and for a little while the plastids remain intact, and so photosynthesis continues, and they're glowing. And they look like sheep. They look like tiny, incredible, glowing purple green sheep under the sea. And I see things like that, and that's my religion, That's when I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable that we get to be here on this planet having this experience. We are so lucky. There are so many incredible, crazy things like leaf sheep, that we could be astounded by if we were paying attention, if we were allowing ourselves to take these things in. But instead, we've created this insanity. And I don't feel like I can be writing about leaf sheep, sea slugs, because there are human slugs like this guy, Mike Knowles. And, last week, and I have notes today because there are so many dreadful things going on. Mike Knowles is he's a conservative political commentator, and he's got a show at the Daily Wire. He has also hosted the book club on PragerU, which is something was also linked in the essay. And he did a podcast with Ted Cruz, called The Verdict. So before people start saying, don't platform men like these men are platformed. They are already platformed. They are already in the highest offices in our government. And that is the problem. That's the problem. And I'm not platforming them. I'm flagging them. I'm pointing at them. I'm trying to, make sure people understand what's happening, because I don't think they do. And the reason I don't think they do is last week we had, Pete Hegseth with that pastor, Doug Wilson, I think his name is, if I'm remembering correctly, the guy who is talking about women having to submit to their husbands. Wives should submit to their husbands. And our Secretary of Defense is tweeting this and saying, like, yeah, this is my guy. This is my church. This is my pastor. I agree with that. Wives need to submit to their husbands. These are people who believe that the husband, the man, should vote for the household. Women should not be voting. The country would be better off if women did not have the vote. And they're not alone. Like this is Pete Hegseth. He's in our government, in the cabinet. Okay? So he's platformed. He's already up there. He's in. He's got the ear of the president of the United States. If you think that the president of the United States does not know what his views are, you are being incredibly naive. He knew, and he nominated him for this position and fought hard for him to get it against a whole bunch of people who said he's not qualified. He's a Fox News commentator. He is not qualified to be heading our military. He kept pushing him. He knows who he is. This is not a mistake. This is intentional. And he's not the only one. J.D. Vance is backed by Peter Thiel. And Peter Thiel is a guy who does not think women should have the vote. These are not good human beings, okay? Like, I don't know how many different ways to be talking about this or, making sure. I feel like how can I be writing about leaf sheep when women's right to vote is on the line? That's what the SAVE Act is, And so if you're not paying attention to these things, and I know so many people just in my own sphere who are not paying attention, they're going to yoga, they're getting kombucha, they're hiking, they're like, la, 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 I'm just going to have my life right now. It's like, wow, okay. But if you like to vote, honey, you should be paying attention because there are people in our government right now, not low down, way up high as you can get, who don't think your right to vote is important and are working against it. And that should terrify you. It should scare you, but it should also motivate you, not just to be paying attention, but to be fighting hard against that for yourself, for your daughters, for your sisters, do you know how hard our grandmothers fought so that we could vote and have a voice and have some power? And there is a whole pushback going on right now against feminism, as if feminism is the problem. Feminism is a dirty word to a lot of these men who are in the manosphere, who have the mic, and you would think it's like, I don't know. They think if you're a feminist, you hate men. Feminism is just women they're full-bodied, equal human beings, and they should have the same rights as anyone else, as men, certainly. That's it. That is it. We can't get the Equal Rights Amendment ratified in the Constitution of the United States, and it's 2025. Ask yourself what the problem is there. It's not because time ran out. That's not the problem. Why did time run out? Why was there even an issue getting this ratified? The Equal Rights Amendment, we can't get that done. There's a problem in our culture, in our country, and there's a pay gap, but it's way worse than that now. There is a push toward undermining, eroding, taking away the rights we currently have. And the SAVE Act, for example, which I've been writing about for, as long as the minute it came on the scene here, is an effort to make it harder for women to vote. And in case, you have not been engaged with that there's so much coming at us all the time. The SAVE Act is, the idea is basically like, if you go to vote, it's time to renew your registration, and your name you don't have your birth certificate, for example, and you don't have a passport. You go with your whatever, your license, and your registration, the name on your voter registration no longer matches like the name on your ID, your driver's license. You're not going to be allowed to renew. Now, how could that happen? In what scenario would you go to renew your registration and your last name no longer matches your driver's license? You got married and changed your last name to your husband's last name. That's the scenario. And sad to say, men generally do not take their their wives' last names in our culture. There are a lot of people that are not taking their husband's last names anymore. But there are a lot of women who are still doing that. So you go to renew your registration. You don't have a passport. There are a lot of people in this country, a lot of women, a lot of people generally who do not have passports because they don't have the expendable income to be traveling internationally. So they don't need a passport. Passports are not free. It's like $250 to get a passport. And that's if, you're lucky and you don't have to expedite or whatever. You just go and you try to get yourself a passport. They're not free. And now they've gutted all of these government agencies. Good luck getting your passport in time for the next election. I guarantee you it won't be easy if you need to do that now. And you don't have the means to expedite, the funds to expedite. Okay, so you go to register to vote or to renew your registration. You have gotten married. You've taken your husband's last name. You don't have a passport. You don't have $250 to go and get a passport. Even if you had $250, there isn't enough time. You don't have $1,000 to expedite. That's a poll tax. That's illegal. It's not okay to make it harder for a certain segment of the population to vote. That is illegal. That is a poll tax. You're not allowed to do that. But that is what the SAVE Act is. So they're sneaking these things in to undermine your right to vote, to make it harder for you as a woman to vote. There is no scenario where that is going to impact a man. There's no scenario where a man is going to go and renew his registration and be like, oops, my driver's license no longer matches my last name. Very, very tiny percentage of men changing their last names when they get married. So that's who these people are. They're working every which way. That's what redrawing the maps is all about. And they're doing it in broad daylight. This whole thing in Texas, right? Like the president calling Governor Abbott and saying, find me 5 more seats. That it was all about like the midterms are coming. I'm not going to win because a lot of people are not happy about what is happening, the tariffs and gutting Medicaid. $911 billion has been cut from Medicaid over the next 10 years. That is the biggest cut to Medicaid in history. Historically, the biggest cut to Medicaid in history. Don't let them confuse you, okay? That's what's happening. I saw someone I adore yesterday posting about how, I didn't vote for him. I don't like him, but he's going to get people who are experiencing homelessness and are mentally unwell off the streets and mandate that they get, mental health support. With what money? I have zero faith in this administration doing anything compassionate, anything with any kind of plan. They are just going to sweep people up off these streets, and I don't know where they're going to end up, but I do not think it's going to be pretty. They have zero compassion. There's no due process. I have watched people in my own community terrified just to leave the house to go to work. I have people like in my kids' high school, like families that I know who did not go to their kids' high school graduation last year because they were afraid. That's what we're dealing with. That's who this administration is. These are not kind people who are going to suddenly take care of people living on the street who need mental health support with Medicaid that would be funding that kind of help. That's not happening here. I'm sorry to tell you. Okay, so that is largely what I was writing about. I want to go back to Mike Knowles for a minute, even though I can't stand the man. So he gets on his show this week and he says, and I linked it, ladies, I want to be really clear here. You do owe your husband sex. Your husbands need sex. And, it's okay if you have a headache once in a while, ladies, but married men need sex. And, that is part of the marriage contract. It's part of the marital debt. Marital debt? I'm sorry. What are you talking about? No one owes anyone sex. That's not how it works. Okay? So that is why, although I continued to write about leaf sheep throughout this essay, because I am determined not to allow these people to steal the light from all of us and steal the beauty and steal the wonder. I will not allow that. So if you go and read the essay, you will see I kept coming back to those leaf sheep because that is a symbiotic relationship where both parties benefit. These people don't understand a relationship like that because they are parasites. They are sucking the light out of everything. But I was determined to, keep that alive for all of us. However, that's what he did. He got on his show and he pointed his fingers, his long, pale fingers at the camera, and he said, "You owe your husband's sex." Okay. So no one is obligated to give anyone sex. That is not how it works. Full stop. Full stop. And any man who wants to have sex with a woman who doesn't want to have sex but thinks she has to, wow, what is going on? That is not a self-respecting man. He went on to say that there are two ways to go. And this is a doublespeak thing that many evangelical, this is a thing. And I've been watching this for quite a long time. It's a doublespeak. It's a thing where they give a false equivalencies or fake choices. And so that's what he went on to do to support his argument that wives owe their husband sex. He's like, you got two ways to go. Either you fight feminism, which tells you women don't owe their husband sex, or you are fighting the sexual revolution, which says, according to him, we're animals and we can never say no. We're just, we're animals and we're going to have wild sex all the time because we can never say no. So those are your options. You can either fight feminism or you can fight the sexual revolution, which means if you don't give your husband sex, he's going to go get it somewhere else because he can't help it because he's an animal. Okay. So that is some giant steaming BS right there. First of all, in a good partnership, there's no owing. It's not a debt. It's not a transaction. It's not like that, okay? It's not a thing where you're submitting to your husband. There's nothing healthy about anything that this man is saying or that pastor, Doug Wilson was saying, that Pete Hegseth, by the way, has been married to 3 different women. 7 children by 3 different women. This man, under 40, okay, married to 3 different women. He cheated on all of them, and he's been credibly accused of sexual assault. And I fully believe the women that came forward to do that. His own mother, Pete Hegseth's own mother, said, this man is a menace. And then his dad told her to be quiet and sit down and take it back, which she then did. This guy's a Christian man with family values, married 3 times with 7 kids, cheating on all of his wives and assaulting women. He does not respect women. This is not a person with family values. And I feel very sorry for his daughters. And he is supporting a pastor who says women should not have the right to vote and they need to submit to their husbands. Goodbye, sir. He doesn't want, LGBTQ people in the military. Sit down, go away. I have zero interest in anything he has to say, but unfortunately, he has been given this incredibly high position in our government because of this president, who a lot of people are still supporting, a lot of women are still supporting. It is wild. You are supporting your own destruction. You are supporting a person who absolutely has zero respect for you. Zero. Does not think of you as a full, powerful human being with value outside of your ability to produce babies. And that is what they want. And so that is what these restrictive abortion bans are about. That is why we have, little girls in Arkansas who are raped. And then the guy, I was talking about this a couple weeks ago, Mason Lee Gibson. He went and raped a 14-year-old girl, and the judge fined him $690. He was given probation. He pled to a lesser charge. He took a plea deal, $690, which he gets to pay to her in $75 a month, starting in September, for whatever that is, not a lot of 6 months or something, not a lot of time. And then because she's in Arkansas, she's got to have the baby because there's no abortion for rape or incest, not even for a minor. And then they're going to co-parent. He gets parental rights. So she's got to look at her rapist and work with him for the rest of her life. $690. In the judge's mind, that's what her life is worth. His life, Mason Lee Gibson, this rapist, pedophile, his life is worth a lot more than hers. The value, you just want to ruin Mason Lee Gibson's life. But the girl's life, he's not worried about that. That's who these men are. And they're everywhere. They're all over the government. They don't care about women and girls. They do not care. And there is a warehouse full of contraceptives in Belgium right now through USAID that was supposed to be dispersed to women all over the world. It's like $9.7 million worth of contraceptives to prevent more babies from being born in into absolute famine. And these a-holes have decided to spend $167,000 of U.S. taxpayer money to burn it instead of dispersing it, which would cost a lot less. It's already there in the warehouse. They're burning it instead of dispersing it. Why? Cruelty is the point. No free lunches for kids, but gold leaf in the White House everywhere. Gold leaf everywhere. No free lunches for kids. What is it going to take for people to start waking up? I would really love to know. How far does it have to go before people understand? They're going to go for birth control next. What they want are white babies because they're going to lose the white majority in 2033 if things don't change. I am trying to tell you this like as clearly as I can. These are people, men, white conservative men who want control. Please, the male loneliness crisis. Oh, did you see like the Trump kids this week being interviewed? Oh, we were like, all of our accounts were canceled overnight, so we have to violate all the clauses and make all the money we can. Sorry, we're fleecing everyone. Woo! Moment of silence for us, please. They're billionaires fleecing everyone. They are literally making billions of dollars and gutting all of our everything. All of our programs. They're calling Social Security a benefits program now. It's not a benefits program. Please understand something. I have been working since I'm 14 years old. Every paycheck any of us have ever had, there's money withheld from your paycheck, meaning you earned this money, but instead of getting it and getting to spend it, even though you earned it, it's taken, it's withheld and put into Social Security. And that money that went into Social Security, it's already spent. That's for people that are currently retired and needing their Social Security. You are feeding into the Social Security system, as is fine. You are part of a society, and there are your elders. It's completely fine, because the idea is when you're an elder, somebody who's 14, 15, 20, 25, young, able to work, they're going to be feeding into that same system. Well, they're trying to make people feel now like that's some kind of welfare program. That's not a welfare program. I have been paying into that my entire life. I'm 54. I've been paying into that since I was 14 years old. That's 40 years of money that I have been putting into Social Security. And there is a very good chance when I get to be 65, there won't be anything there for me. Which is them stealing. That's what that is. And I don't know how to help people understand that's what's going on. When you start changing the words and calling things, federal benefit program, it's not a federal benefit program. That's not what it is. It's not a benefit program. It's you paid that money. That's your money. That should have been invested. If they weren't going to invest it and take care of it, then you should have had it to invest however you wanted. These are really, really not good people. They do not care about you or me or any of us. And if you're not seeing it yet, that's why I have children in this world. I have a daughter in this country. I can't write about sunflowers and leaf sheep and, not right now. I mean, I can and I am, but I have to also write about all this other slug behavior, human slug behavior, because it's really, we've never seen anything like this before. These people don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about checks and balances. They don't care. They'll redraw the maps. And PBS, gone, right? Public broadcasting, gone. They're replacing it with PragerU. PragerU is not a university. It is a business. It's a conservative content creator. That's what it is. And I was talking about how Mike Knowles hosts this, the book club there. And they're a video production company. They call themselves PragerU because it sounds like a university, sounds like they're educational. They're not. They're just a business. I linked this. They create videos, for example, like an animated video of Christopher Columbus teaching kids that slavery has to be considered in context. And slavery is as old as time, so is rape, And, you know, it's better than death. No, that's literally what he says. He says to these animated kids, it's slavery's better than death. No, very bizarre bar to introduce to school age children. But that's what's happening in, I think it's already 7 public schools are using PragerU videos. And they pretend to be balanced. They're 1000% terrifying whitewashing of history, trying to make slavery seem not so bad, not so bad. And then they've got Candace Owens coming in and saying white people saved everyone from slavery, which is terrifying. You know, I don't really need to say more. Ted Cruz is part of PragerU. I mean, I think you understand. This is a conservative company promoting conservative propaganda, which is now going into the public school system in certain states. And this is the party that was accusing the educational system of indoctrinating children with woke ideology. I mean, woke ideology is what? Teaching our kids that some people may think differently, might look different, might love differently, pray differently, speak differently. Oh, geez, yeah, let's not do that. I mean, I was writing about the fact that, you know, I grew up here in the United States. I was born here, and I learned about slavery as a young child in the school system. I went to private schools. I went to private school in New York City, and then I went to Columbia University. I went to like private schools all the way through, and I learned about slavery, and I absolutely remember as a young child feeling all kinds of ways. Terrible, just really complicated, uncomfortable, just, painful feelings around all of that. And it was really good for me as a human being, for my growth, for my development, for my understanding. And it made me seek out writers who also have made me a better human being. Some of them were introduced to me, Richard Wright, like people, Toni Morrison and Maya Angelou. And I mean, and then there were people I sought out myself, Audre Lorde and Bell Hooks and Langston Hughes. I mean, so many incredible Black writers that I would not be the person I am if I had not immersed myself, and I did, in all of that writing and wisdom. And I would not, that helped me develop this understanding of, really thinking about how things are for other people. And I never lost that, I never lost that feeling of like, I know how things are for me. How are things for other people? It's not the same for everyone. It's not a level playing field. We're not all coming from the same place. Like, let me, when I walk into a space, read the room. Let me try to think about how this might feel for someone else. Before I open my mouth and say something stupid, let me think about how that might feel for someone. If I said something and maybe I feel the energy in the room shift, let me think about, maybe I should, let me think about that for a minute. Maybe I owe someone an apology here. Maybe I need to self-reflect a little bit. It makes you a better human being. And when you're in a society, you are part of something bigger than yourself. And you can love your country and also understand that the creation of your country is entwined with some really ugly stuff. You can still love your country and understand that Christopher Columbus was a raping, abusive, horrible human being. He stole people. He treated people horribly on those ships that we all heard about coming. I thought Christopher Columbus was a great guy. That's what I was taught as a kid. When I learned who Christopher Columbus really was, I was shocked. I was like, oh my, I can't believe what I learned about this man, this horrible human being, And when I began to understand the manifest destiny and, like what actually happened, we just came and we took what we wanted from people who lived here before we ever got here, as we do. We just came, we took what we wanted by force, by manipulation, by any means necessary. And you can still love your country and understand that its origins are deeply ugly and not, you can, both of those things can exist. And you can love your country and understand that its growth is entwined and enmeshed with 450 years of you cannot understand our history in the United States and not understand slavery. If you don't understand that history, then you don't understand the history of the United States. And that's what they're trying to now whitewash, because they don't want little white kids to hate their country. You're not going to hate your country. You're going to understand what happened and try to make sure that you are at least, right, an empathetic human being who is trying to evolve. And if the parts of the whole are trying to do better and be better, then the whole is evolving. Just the way you can love a human being, even if that person is flawed, even if that person is, deeply flawed, maybe blind to their own stuff, you can still love somebody and be like, hey, like, I love you, but there are some things you are not seeing. You're not seeing some stuff here that is preventing you from being the person I know that you could be. And I love you, but like, this is something you really need to take a look at. I mean, it's been done in other countries. Hello, look at Germany. It's that you can be a self-aware country, society, and evolve and become something different, or you can deny reality and it's all a mess at that point. If you know people like this, right? They won't look at their stuff. They won't have hard conversations. It's like they stick their fingers in their ear, like la 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 la. They don't want to look at that. They don't want to talk about it. It is a mess, and it's already happening. It's not about hating your country. It's not that. It's about loving your country, but looking at it honestly and being like, yeah, that is really painful. That is some painful, ugly history. A lot of people suffered. A lot of people were treated, unconscionably, and still are. Look at what is happening right now. People are being disappeared off the streets. These people who are doing that, they don't care what happened. They don't care about the history. They're like, nah, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to look at that. We're going to repeat it. This is not who we want to be. This is not it. You want to go backwards where women don't have the vote and black people are like, it's already bad. Okay? It's already not okay. My friends who have black children the same age as my children, they have to have conversations with their kids about I'm just going to get really upset. What happens when they leave the house? How they have to like not step a toe out of line. If they get pulled over, you know, all of our kids are starting to drive now. If you get pulled over, like for just something simple, you know, like you didn't signal, even that like puts your life in jeopardy. You know, my 18-year-old son, if he doesn't signal and he gets pulled over, his life is not in jeopardy. But he has friends where that is not the case. And that is not cool at all, you know? So it's already not okay. It's not okay as it is right now. We are not in a position to lose ground. We're not in a position to lose ground on anything. We were only in a position to do better. We were never in a position to go backward. Never. Not an inch. I mean, on the environment, all of it. Like, we have not been in a position to go backward in any area. And that's the part of this that is so devastating. You know, they're rolling back everything, the environmental protections, the emissions, all of it. All of it. You know, there's a young woman, she's like 18 years old. She was in a, I can't remember if it was like a Buffalo, like a wings place. And I can't remember where it was, Tennessee maybe, I don't know. She got chased into the bathroom by a server who thought she wasn't female and she shouldn't be using the women's room. Thought she was transgender and she shouldn't be using the women's room. And this server chased her into the ladies' room and was banging on the door. This girl's 18 years old. That's the age of my son. I know what 18 is. My daughter's 16. I know what it is. And would not be satisfied until this poor girl showed the server her breast. This is making girls and women safer in public restrooms and locker rooms. These are dangerous, bigoted, horrible people. And they're making everyone less safe. Everyone less safe. And if you don't see it, I don't know what I don't know how to, you know, what other words I can use, but I'm trying, you know, I'm trying. These are not good people. This is not going to end well for anyone. Everyone should be banding together and fighting this administration. These are terrible individuals. They do not care about any of us. If you voted for them, they don't care about you. If you didn't vote for them, they don't care about you. They care about you less if you didn't vote for them, but they don't care about anyone except themselves and what they can take. They are parasites. They are taking it all. They've taken our data. They've got everybody's social security numbers because the president let Musk walk right into the treasury. This whole thing with big balls and the carjacking and, you know, 14-year-olds now that the president wants to treat as adults. What do you think is going on there? Everyone in DC is like, the crime rate's down by like 26%. Violent crime is down, you know, like carjackings are down. Everything's down. I mean, I live in Los Angeles. We had the National Guard. I know what this BS is. I lived it. I saw it. You know, this is just a test. How far can I go? What will people allow? You know, how much power can I grab? How far can I take this? And so far it seems like very far, People are just letting it happen. Too many of them. I would say there are like 30% of people who are on fire and unable to believe what they're seeing, like me. Every day I wake up and I'm like, what new horrible thing is going to happen? Now they're whitewashing slavery. Are you serious? This is what they're going to start teaching kids in public schools. Are you serious? They want to roll back Kim Davis. Do you know about Kim Davis? This is the woman who, by the way, has been married 4 times to 3 different men. 4 times this woman would not sign marriage certificates for people for same-sex marriages. She's, I think she's in Kentucky. Yeah, she's a Kentucky court clerk. And she would not sign same-sex marriage certificates because it goes against her religion. You're in the wrong job, lady. Go home. She can't exist in a society with marriage equality. So she would not sign those marriage certificates for people. Yeah. So, we had a court case. We had a court case. Trying to make sure I say it the right way. Obergefell, and that was in 2015, and that guaranteed marriage equality. And the idea there was that marriage equality is a fundamental right. Marriage, the right to marry, is a fundamental right protected by the 14th Amendment of the Constitution and due process, right? And equal protection clause. And so any statewide bans could not be upheld constitutionally. They were struck down, and, that was that. There was a loophole, and this Kim Davis in Kentucky, it goes against my religion to sign these certificates. She got thrown in jail for 6 days, and she's taken her case to the Supreme Court. And everyone's saying they're not going to overturn marriage equality. Don't worry, they're not going to do that. It's very unlikely that they're going to do that. Well, that's what they said about Roe. That's what they said about Roe. So, yeah, I'm not. I take no comfort in people saying they're not going to do that, because everyone said the Supreme Court would not overturn Roe, and they did. And it is a giant cluster of the worst kind. Women and girls have died. It's like your rights shouldn't vary state by state. You're a woman. It shouldn't matter if you're in California or Idaho or Tennessee or Texas. You're a woman. You shouldn't have different rights than a man. You're a grown woman. What are we talking about here? You should have the same rights to life-saving healthcare as anyone, no matter where the F you are in the United States. If you're bleeding out, your life should be saved. Full stop. It shouldn't be any different. If I take my son or my daughter into an emergency room anywhere in this country for any reason, my daughter's life is just as valuable as my son's. It shouldn't matter where we are. It's insanity what's going on. But not to these people. That is who is in power right now. Peter Thiel funded J.D. Vance. He is the second in command. And, I'm going to tell you something. If this president, who I'm not a fan of at all, I find him to be the most repugnant, malignant narcissist. I can't believe anyone was ever confused about who this person was. I cannot believe it. Absolute will not release the Epstein files. And people are like, oh, I'm still supporting him. Like, why? What more do you need? Why, if they prove his innocence, would he not instantly, the most self-serving man I think I've ever seen in my life, why would he not release them if he was innocent? If they proved his innocence, most simple thing in the world, most self-serving man in the world, he'd be so happy to just loudly be like, you see? But he's not doing that. Nope, he's putting Ghislaine Maxwell in an open-air prison camp where she gets to take bar classes with real housewives. That's what he's done. He's made a deal with the most despicable of the most despicable, and people are still supporting this man and the administration, the people that he's put in power. It's like, do you not see yet who these people are? They're terrible people. And J.D. Vance, he is a slimy, he'd sell his kids. Like, he is not a good human being. He is not a good human being. He does not respect women. I don't know what you didn't hear during the election. I don't know what you missed or what you were watching or what you did not hear. But he was very clear. First of all, he calls the kids her kids, Usha's kids. They're her kids. He talks about how, as far as affordable childcare, maybe your mother-in-law can move in. Because, of course, she doesn't have a life of her own or a job or dreams or, that's her job now because she's postmenopausal. So she can't produce any more kids. So she can come and take care of your kids. That's his solution for affordable childcare. This man could not care less. Childless cat ladies, people without kids shouldn't have as much of a vote because they don't have a stake in the future of the country. What about the 18-year-old kids who are off fighting these dreadful frickin' wars that we keep having? They don't have kids. Most of them, they're kids themselves. Do they not have a stake in the future of the country? They're putting their lives on the line. This is a terrible person who wants a national abortion ban. And Peter Thiel, the guy who's backed him, who owns him, does not think women should have the vote, does not think democracy works, thinks dictatorship is the way to go. Curtis Yarvin, one of Vance's heroes, is like a tech bro, AI, let's privatize everything. These are scary, bad people. And I just don't know, folks. I don't know. But you don't owe your husband sex. Men like this, the sexual revolution, I'm going to just circle back to that. The sexual revolution was not, and that's really what I wanted to tie everything back to for some way or another here. That argument that Mike Knowles was making. You're either against feminism, which is telling women they don't owe their husband sex. No one owes. That's not how a healthy relationship works. You're in a good partnership where both people are working together and having open communication and conversation, and there's teamwork and desire at that point. If both people are feeling respected and heard and there's laughter, then there's no owing. It's not transactional. It's not, an obligation. It's not part of the contract or the debt. That's disgusting. It's disgusting. Or you're fighting against the sexual revolution. Okay, so the sexual revolution was not this thing of we're all animals and we can never say no and we're gonna have wild sex all the time. That's not what that was. It was a huge pushback. It was cultural. It had to do with norms. It was about, first of all, the pill, okay? The pill was FDA approved in 1960, I think. It became widely available in 1965. And by 1967, I think there were 13 million women on the pill. So for the first time, women could have sex without worrying about getting pregnant, which men have been able to do since, let me think for a second, the beginning of time. Yeah. So for the first time, women could just have sex for fun and not worry. And that was part of it. That was part of it. It's like, oh, I could actually just go and not be worried that I'm going to end up pregnant. I could just go and enjoy sex for the sake of enjoying sex, which, by the way, people have been doing from the beginning of time as well. It is not always tied to procreation. And I think we all know that. We're grown-ups. But the sexual revolution said, women can go and do this. They can go and explore. They can see what they like. They can have partners before they get married. It does not make them whores. It does not make them sluts. Sorry, fellas. They get to be like you. They get to go and see what they like and what feels good to them and what turns them on and what doesn't turn them on. And, you know, they get to do the same thing you've been doing. And it's great and it's beautiful. They get to enjoy their bodies. They get to enjoy they get to enjoy. And we all get to enjoy. We all get to stop with this conservative, like the wars and it was a giant hippie pushback music, Joni Mitchell. It was just like it was all part of the civil rights movement. Feminism, like it was all part and parcel. It was not about, we're just going to all go have wild sex because we're animals and nobody can say no. That's not what it was. It was a giant movement pushing back against the man, and the same stuff we're still pushing back against now. This idea that, daddy is making the rules. Up yours, daddy. We're done. Enough. We see what the world looks like when you are in control, and it is ugly and everyone dies, okay? And the planet dies. So we're done. You've had a lot of time to show us what you can do. We get it. And everything is dying. So enough. This doesn't work. This chest pounding form of control and I'm going to tell you how it is and I'm going to make the rules. That's dead. It's done. It's a joke. It's I'm sorry, but no. You're not. It's you've shown the best you can do and just all it is people dying everywhere. That's what it is. It's guns and rockets and pollution and taking and raping and pillaging and burning, and it's just no, and hey, it's not all men. You know what? It's not all men. A lot of great men out there, and none of them think like that. None of them think like that. I'm talking about a particular segment of man who is threatened by women who know themselves and who are like, yeah, I want my full rights. I'm not going to owe anybody sex. I don't owe anyone my body. That's not how this works. I don't owe anyone my free labor. I don't owe anyone. I'm not doing that. I'll be in a partnership and I'll be in a partnership with anyone I want. It's all of this idea that anyone should be watching out, determining how someone else lives, or this religious sort of well, your lifestyle goes against my religion, so I'm going to prevent you from doing, living your life. What are you doing? What are you doing? These Christo-fascists, what are you doing right now? Not everyone believes what you believe. So Mike Knowles telling people this is a false equivalency, fake choices. It's either this or that. But then the two things are that's not what feminism is. Feminism is not this thing that's taking anything away from men. It's just giving women their full rights. It's just saying women should be paid the same as a man. If she's doing the same job a man is doing just as well, she should be making the same money. She should have the same rights. Certainly her right to vote should not be in jeopardy. Her right to bodily autonomy should not be in jeopardy. Like, this should not be a thing she's fighting about. It shouldn't matter what state she's in. You know, these people want to maintain the white majority. They want a workforce. There's zero sane gun legislation. It's like, nope, school shootings are going to keep going. We're not going to do a thing about that. We're not going to give kids free lunch. We're not going to give you affordable childcare. We're not going to give you more paid time off. We're not doing any of that. We're gutting Medicaid. We're cutting SNAP benefits, but we're going to make it really hard for, you know, half of you living in half the states to have any kind of reproductive care, because now the doctors, the OBGYNs in those states, they don't want to be there. The new residents don't want to go to those states where they could go to jail if they try to save somebody's life who's having a miscarriage. They don't want to be there. So now even the women who want to be pregnant in those states are less safe, because good luck getting an OBGYN in like rural Missouri. You've got 18,000 women trying to go to one OBGYN in some parts of rural Missouri. 4 districts with one OBGYN. 18,000 women. I'm not making that up. That's Jess Piper. Go look it up yourself. 18,000 women, one OBGYN. How safe do you think those women are and those pregnancies are? What do you think is going to happen if, like, how's that one OBGYN supposed to, when women start having babies, what's she going to do? How can she be in, I don't know, let's say 6,000 people go into labor in 24 hours. How's that supposed to happen? It's not. This is a really bad situation, folks. It's really bad, and it's really bad for women. It's really bad for brown and black people. It's really bad for the LGBTQ community. It's bad for everyone who is not a straight white man with means. That's where we are. And, you know, if you are thinking I'm overstating the case, you're not paying attention. Or you're a straight white man with means and you don't care. It's like, you know, that's not a false choice. That's real. Like, if you are not realizing what is happening right now and who these people are, then, you know, listen, this is not me judging anybody. This is me, like, really trying to sound the alarm and asking you to look up a few things, you know, if you care about this stuff, if you care about, like, every marginalized group in our country, then yeah, I mean, look up for sure. Go read the essay, because I linked it all. Just go read the essay. I linked every single thing I'm talking about so you can see, and then you can start resisting. And, you know, what does that look like? I don't know. There are a lot of protests happening tomorrow. That's Saturday. I think tomorrow's the 15th. I don't even know what the date is. I think it's the 15th, but don't quote me on that. A lot of No Kings protests happening. You know, I'm wondering, like, what needs to happen, if we need to be like marching on Washington or doing a general strike, or what major thing needs to happen here for this to stop, because we can't do this for another 3 years. This is just not gonna, it's not sustainable. And, you know, I do worry if, I don't know that I feel better. Like, I'm not really sure what is going to happen here. I don't know if this president's making it through the next 3 years, mentally or physically. And if Vance takes over, I can't say that feels okay either. So, you know, I just don't, these are not normal people. This is not, these are people who have taken over the Republican Party, but these are not your, like, granddad's Republicans. This is a whole new breed of, you know, these are parasites who've taken over the country and the government. And we really need to be working together to get them out, is where it's at. Certainly if you care about any marginalized groups in this country, anyone who is not a straight white man with means, then, you really need to be engaged at this point. It's like not a time to be sitting on the sidelines or, I'm not into politics. Politics is into you. If you care about your rights, if you care about other people, if you have people in your life, like who have transgender people in their life, if you have people in your life who are Black or brown or part of the LGBTQ community, like, if you have women in your life, if you have a mom or you have sisters or you have daughters or you have friends, like, I would hope you would care. I really would. I would hope you would care. And, yeah, I would hope you would care and I would hope you would pay attention. And, some of the things that I do regularly, for whatever they're worth, because I'd rather be doing something, is, certainly I'm boycotting all kinds of companies. I mean, Home Depot and Amazon and, Target. I mean, that's nothing. Like, those are nothings. Those are like givens. But I will write letters and send emails. And the judge, for example, in that Mason Lee Gibson case, I sent him a scathing, probably the most scathing letter I've ever sent anyone. Will he get it? I don't know. Maybe his assistant will get it and throw it out. It doesn't matter. I sent it. The guy who owns Etsy, I think his name is Josh Silverman. You can find his email. You can find his address. They have alligator Alcatraz merch that they're selling on Etsy right now. I sent him an email because that's disgusting. Anytime I see anything that's like, that's not okay, I do something, because taking some action to me feels better than doing nothing and accepting. I accept none of this. I will go down fighting for Leaf Sheep and your daughters and my daughter and all of us. All of us and my friends' kids who get pulled over for not putting their signal on, and, my friends who didn't go to their kids' high school graduation, like, I will go down fighting because that's the least I can do. That's the least I can do. And I hope you join me, I hope you join me. Like, I hope you care enough to get involved if you haven't. I think not caring is worse. I really do. I think not being engaged is worse. None of this is easy, but I think checking out is worse. I really do. So, yeah, a lot of things that you would think you wouldn't need to say, slavery is horrific, stain on our history. You don't owe your husband, like, all of these things, right? Like, marriage equality shouldn't be in jeopardy. Women's voting rights shouldn't be in jeopardy. Like, things that you're like, I can't believe the things that I feel like I need to say. This is what you need to say. Like, gerrymandering. Like, I've had my issues with the governor of our state, but I'll tell you what, I like this energy and I'm all for it. It's like, if these people are going to break the rules, great. Then we'll meet them right on that field. We won't do it if they don't do it, but if that's what they're going to do, we will meet you there. That is the correct energy. We need to be meeting this moment. These people, the gloves are off. There are no rules for them. This is what you have to do. I'm all for it. So, you know where to find me if you need me. I'm sending you a lot of love. Check out Leaf Sheep. Check out sunflowers. Make sure you're balancing it out. That's part of the reason I was like, I can't, when there's a recipe and like there's an ingredient that is so strong, you're like, I have to cut that with something. I have to cut it with something. It's too, and otherwise it's going to like overpower the entire dish. That's how I felt this week. I had so much like white hot rage. I'm like, okay, that's legit, but I need to cut it with the incredible beauty in this world and the things that just make you amazed to be here and grateful. And, you know, that feeling like when you love someone and you are in a crowded room, but you make eye contact with them and it's like everything, you know, that, like, that's what we're doing here. Love, right? Just like, that's the point. And these people are missing the point. They're missing the entire point, which is like, it's wild to miss that. It's wild. It's just, it's shocking. So I made sure to get that in too, because we're not doing that. We're not going to have a thing where it's like, we're blinded, you know? It's like, I'm not going to let them blind me. I remember what I'm doing here, but damn straight, I'm enraged about a lot of the things that are happening. So both are true.